Hello, everyone. This is Julio Veitas speaking. I hope you can hear me fine. Can you please let me know how's my video and how's my audio? Could you please send me a message down in the chat below, the comments below? Yeah, okay, so you can hear me fine. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you. So thank you very much for being here. This is the last day, the last episode of the Teaching Online SIG webinar week, the last session, the last webinar. And before I invite Hellen Haga to join us, I'd like to give you some announcements. We have a feedback questionnaire form. I'm going to send you, oh, video is frozen. Oh, I do apologize for that, but it seems to me that the connection has been very unstable recently, all over Brazil, if not the world. I think that there has been great demand of internet in the last days. So I do apologize for that. So let's try to have
Julio,
our session despite those problems. Oh, Vinicius, you're here. I thought you wouldn't be able to make it happen.
yeah, just sent you a message just to
Oh,
send here the links and wish Ellen a nice presentation. I think we
oh,
can
great.
still see your screen. Are you still sharing?
Oh, sorry about that.
No, no problem. That's great. So hello everybody. I hope you're ready for this last webinar with Hellen Haga. We all have the so-called links here. We have the feedback. Oops, just send to everybody. We have the feedback link, which is the first. Second link is our Telegram group, so you can get to know of upcoming webinars, right? This online webinar teaching, online teaching webinar week is finishing, but we will continue providing you with webinars, especially on the weekends. So feel free to join the group and get notifications, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is the last link I sent there. I'm going to send it back again to know when videos are uploaded. As we speak, I'm working on Julio Menochelli's video, and later in the week, we will still have Cecilia Nobri, which was a webinar we had a problem with, and a file actually we had a problem with, and all the other webinars will be there as well. Thank you very much for being here once more. And oh, remember to use the Q&A button for questions if you have questions directed to Ellen, and the chat box for any other kind of interaction. Okay. Thank you, Julio. Nice
Thank you very
presentation,
much,
Helen.
Vinicius. So again, thank you very much for joining us today in this beautiful Wednesday. I mean, at least here in Minas Gerais, Brazil, it's really sunny. So I hope you can bask in the sunshine later on from maybe the balcony of your apartment or from the window of your house. I mean, it's not really safe to go outside. Nevertheless, thank you very much for being here. And before we get started, I'd like to thank Hellen Haga for being here with us, for accepting our invitation. And Hellen, can you please join us? Can you please turn your video on?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you very much for being here, Hellen.
Great, my pleasure.
So before we get started, let me see where our audience is typing from. I can see people from Rio Grande do Sul, Brasília, Minas Gerais, beautiful Minas Gerais, Brasília. Can you please type down where you are right now so I can see the range of these webinars? Santa Catarina, Mexico. Wow, amazing. Brasília, Bahia, São Paulo, Botucatu, Boston, the US. Thank you very much for being here. France, wow. Yeah, we have two continents here with us. That's amazing. So, Hellen, once again, thank you very much for being here. Let me have the honor to introduce you to our audience. Hellen Haga has a degree, is a degreed librarian who became an English teacher in 2011. She was a speaker at the 12th ELF conference in Colombia in 2019, and is currently studying ELF, English as a Lingua Franca practices for inclusive multilingual classrooms from the Hellenic Open University. University. So Hellen is going to talk about bringing English as a lingua franca into online classes. Hellen, thank you very much. It's all yours.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so can I start sharing my screen?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see if everything is working just fine. Okay, great. Can you see my screen? Is it working? Ah, gee. Okay. That's the harsh of working with two simultaneous screens. Okay, great. It's working. And one is above my head, so I have to look up. I hope you will forgive me for that. All right. As Julio said, my name is Hellen Haga. Thank you very much, BRAZ-TESOL and Julio Vietas, for this amazing opportunity to both help my fellow colleagues, teachers of English, and also talk about a topic which I'm very, very fond of, which is ELF, English as a lingua franca, in the online classroom environment. Okay, there's some. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you all for joining us in this afternoon. I know you should all be working, but you're here joining us, and that's really a delight. So without further ado, let's get started. Here's an outline of my presentation of this webinar. So firstly, we're going to talk about the perks of teaching online. Then we'll move on to what English as a lingua franca is and why we should consider it and why we should bring it into our classroom. And apparently there's some problem. See me? Hello, can you all see me?
Hellen, I can see you fine, but I'm not sure about the audience. Some of them can, and some of them just can't. So it seems to be sort of local problem.
Okay. Yeah, well, this morning I had the delightful pleasure of realizing my internet was quite unstable, and apparently it said it's a national problem. So, okay. Oh, I can stop the video. Okay, we can't do that. Hang on.
I can do that for you. Would like me to stop your video, Hellen?
Please. Okay.
Yeah, I've just done it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Great. International. Oh my goodness. Okay. So that's probably going to affect our business. But okay, let's move on then. So if you all have any more problems, please comment in the chat box. So moving on, what English as a lingua franca is and why we should care about it. And finally, examples of English as a lingua franca in online classrooms, online activities. So by now, I can bet you're all experts at teaching online tools and activities, but I'd like to highlight, nevertheless, some great perks of teaching online. So the first one is record videos with your students. I don't know about you, but every time I try to record videos in a face-to-face class, it's always a mess. The light is never right. Angle is not proper. Some students are not in the video. It's really crazy. But online, you can just click on Zoom's record button, and that will do the trick. You can give individual feedback on the spot without others noticing. What do I mean by that? You can just text them on Zoom. You can send individual messages, and our students won't even notice you're giving them feedback. Okay, all right. Some problems with the audio, maybe. Okay. If anybody else has got problems, you can comment as well. So we can also take advantage of students' knowledgeable literacy. Probably you have experienced that fine line between allowing your students to technology and okay. Yes, Vera Lucy is saying the audio is choppy. Okay. The audio is not okay. Right. Julio, Vinicius.
Hi, Helen.
Hi. They're saying the audio is failing. Is it the same happening to you?
It is, but curiously, not now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, everybody's internet is unstable. Right. I'm using my 4G just to make sure things okay. I'm going to speak a bit slower and maybe you won't miss anything. Okay, great. Now it's better. Okay.
Helen, I
so
think for some people it's going to be bad. For others, it's going to be okay. And
all
for a
right.
few privileged ones, it's going to be good. So
Okay.
it's not your internet really, it's the country.
Okay.
It's not the continent.
Okay. All right. Well, this will be available on YouTube afterwards, so you can catch up if you missed something. Okay. And let's move on. So you can take advantage of your students' technological literacy. You can use active inspire, you can use quizzes, polls, you can ask them to make presentations. So it's really wonderful to do all of that online, and students will feel that it's part of their lives. Okay, so it's easy to share teacher screens. So in face-to-face classrooms, sometimes we do not have a way to show our screen. Sometimes we don't have a computer. Sometimes there's no projector. Then online, this is much easier. Reduce TTT, aka talking time. So if you just mute your microphone, that's it. Students won't be listening to you, and it takes you some time to enable that microphone back. So it will reduce your TTT kind of automatically. You can give students more freedom. And let me give you an example. If you're asking them to do an activity in pairs or a group activity, and you turn your video camera, off, and also your audio, they will feel as if you're not there. And that can really foster a sense of freedom into your students. You can use and integrate technology, as I said before, regarding the screen. You can provide, hello, Julio? I think somebody's mic is on. Okay, good. So you can provide more interaction because the students will have to communicate. In an online environment, is much harder to stay quiet. So it starts becoming uncomfortable, and they will talk to each other quite naturally. Not that, but they will ask each other to repeat things. They will interact more than. You will promote those situations for functional language. So as I gave an example previously, they are going to ask each other, can you repeat that, please? Can you? Oh, hi. Bruno's asking the tool. It's his PowerPoint. Okay. Hope I have answered. Right. The audio is breaking up again. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry, but everybody's internet seems to be a bit unstable. So, okay, good. You can promote situations of functional language, and this is where we start getting into English as a lingua franca. Finally, you can prompt students to use paralinguistic features. So what are those? Facial expressions, gestures, body language. Students sometimes aren't aware of how powerful these are. And you can prompt them to start using, because online sometimes we have to, as we say in good Portuguese, fazer caras e bocas. So you have to make sure people understand somehow. And so these are the perks of teaching online. Now, what is English as a lingua franca. Before I talk about it, I'd like to hear from you, actually to read from you. If you could please just type in the chat box. Okay. Okay. I'll try to speak more slowly. Okay. All right. So if you could just please write in the chat box what you think English as a lingua franca is, that would be great. Okay. Great.
Ellen, just a tip here. It might help, I don't know. But are you the only one using the internet in a house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well. Okay. All right. Great. So you're okay. You're on the right track. This is a definition by BRAZ-TESOL, and Vinicius is going to make this text, this article available when we finish. So as you can see, lingua franca is a language that serves as a means of communication with speakers of different languages. It's pretty much what you said. Some scholars say that English as a lingua franca does not include native speakers of the language, but some others, Jennifer Jenkins included, say that no, they do participate, but when they participate in the communication, in the communication, they do not set the linguistic agenda. In fact, they use accommodation techniques to make sure they convey the message. Right. Now, why should we consider English as lingua franca in our classrooms? So I have some data here, compiled data. Native speakers are outnumbered. According to the Ethnologue, it's a very nice website, and this will be available after too. There are nowadays 379 million native speakers of English in the world, whereas the non-native speakers account for 753 million people. So it's very clear the numbers speak for themselves. Okay. I just want to see the world, not only with native. So when you talk to learners, who do you want to talk to in English? Sometimes they do answer Americans, but most of the time they will answer everybody. And even when they have a native bias in answer by just saying Americans or British or Australian, you can always ask them why, what makes you say that. Speakers develop communication which doesn't necessarily follow grammatical rules. So what do I mean by that? In real-world interactions, sometimes the speakers forget to put the S in third person singular. Sometimes they confuse much and many. Sometimes they make irregular plurals. So, for example, things
Ellen,
like informations. Yes.
Ellen, sorry about interrupting you, but
No, it's okay.
I thought it was only me, but I just asked the audience, and they are all having problems to understand you. Let me just test something. Can you please tell me if you can understand me? It's Julio Vietas now. Can you understand me fine? I can understand you fine, Ellen. You can understand me fine as well. So how about the audience? Can the audience understand me? Julie's fine. Yes. Yeah, you see, some people can understand me, some people can't, but the majority of them is telling me that, yes, they can understand me. So Ellen, I think it's something on your side. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not
Let
sure.
me-
And my internet is not the best one. I mean, really and truly. I live deep in the woods, so there's no good internet where I am.
Okay. Let me. Okay.
Loud and clear, Julie. Thank you very much, Karen.
Okay.
So just make sure you're the only one using internet in your house, because I don't know, maybe your husband is just like me. I mean, I love PlayStation 4, or I love Netflix, so maybe it's just like nicking your broadband.
No, that's it.
Are you using cable?
Now I am.
Oh,
I actually I was using my 4G because
oh no! Good Wi-Fi.
my cable was unstable. No, that's the thing.
I can hear you fine now. Can you all hear Ellen
Yes,
fine
okay.
now?
Now it's okay. Great.
Yeah, it's my presence, Ellen.
Right. Of course.
Okay, so Ellen, I'll give the mic back to you, okay?
Okay,
And
okay.
so could you please go back maybe 5 minutes in your presentation, because I think it was precious what you're saying, but the audience just missed it.
Sure. Okay, so, all right. Let me know if it's not working again, okay? Let's rely on net and see how it goes. Okay, it's working out great. All right. Okay, so yeah, it's called Murphy's law. But all right, so great, fantastic. Okay, all right. Was explaining reasons to bring English as a lingua franca into the classroom. The first reason here is native speakers. Okay, no, actually, the microphone is all right, but okay, great. All right, so native speakers are outnumbered. According to a website that is going to be available after these. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Can you hear me fine, Julia, now?
No, it's kind of breaking. And just a word for the audience. I'm used to having meetings with Helen, and it's always okay. I don't know what's going on. So that's why I really think it's the connection somewhere. But for strange reasons that really are really beyond me, now Helen's connection is great.
Oh,
it's on and off. Yeah, it's on and off, unfortunately.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah, go on, Ellen. Go on. Yeah, go on. Maybe it's her. Maybe it's your microphone, Ellen. Are you using something new?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I tested before, and I had classes today.
Ellen, now it's great. I'm gonna leave my microphone open. Maybe it's something like that. Every time Julia steps in, it gets better. Vera.
Okay.
That's funny, Vera.
Right.
Okay, go on, Ellen. I'm gonna leave my microphone on. Go on.
Okay, great. That's just okay. I think I stopped sharing, right? Okay. Yes. Okay. When both of you are on, it gets better. Okay, great. Oh, great to know that. Okay. So, as I was saying, according to the. Okay. Good. Great. Oh, thank you. All right, but it's going to be available, yes, on YouTube afterwards. So, okay, Julie will have to edit this because there are lots of cuts, but all right, let's make it work. So according to the ethnologue, there are nowadays 379 million native speakers of English in the world, whereas non-native speakers account for 753. Yeah, don't go away, Julio. Okay, you're making it happen. Yeah, you're making it happen. All right.
I'm sending good vibes.
Oh, great. Okay. So native speakers are outnumbered. Second reason, learners want to speak with the world, not only with natives. What do I mean here? It's when you ask your students who they want to talk to in English, they are more likely to say everybody than just, oh, Americans. And if they do say so, it's a great chance to challenge these bias. Ask them why. Okay, great now, thank you. All right, carrying on. Another reason is that speakers develop communication which doesn't necessarily follow grammatical rules. When we're having real world interactions, what usually happens? People forget to put the S in the third person of singular. They mistake many and much. They make weird plurals such as I need information, and that's all right. It doesn't usually hinder communication. Finally, when you make students aware of English as a lingua franca, they gain confidence. All right, prepare to feel a bit unstable now. Okay, so they gain confidence in their English skills. You can test that with your students. Once you start enriching your classes with ELF, you're going to notice the difference. You also make learners more open-minded towards other kinds of Englishes around the world. They will be more tolerant to mistakes, to different accents, and that's really important. That being said, how do we do it? Firstly, we develop learners' awareness. We ask them metacognitive and metalinguistic questions. Metalinguistic questions are such as, what do you do in English when people don't understand you? Is the English you use outside the classroom the same as you use in the class? Why or why not? Metacognitive questions are such as, is it okay to make mistakes when speaking English? What do you think of your English? Why? It's truly relevant to expose your learners to competent non-native speakers, famous, brilliant people such as Giselle Bündchen or Rodrigo Santoro, whose English is very good, and they have kept their accent. So it goes to show the learners some really good examples. So you can also develop something which sometimes is overlooked in the classroom, which is pragmatic competence. Let me give you an example of that. I was going to an event with my husband, and when we were in the car, I told him we're late. He replied, I'm sorry, but I can't speed up. And then I was thinking, why did you say that? I just stated that we were late. So what happened? He inferred based on his pragmatic competence, and students have to be aware of these when they're learning their L2. Secondly, we teach learners communication strategies. So things like turn-taking strategies. For us Brazilians, that's hard because sometimes we interrupt each other, conversations overlap, and students need to be aware that it might be seen as a rude behavior if you're in cross-cultural communication. Students should learn to negotiate meaning. Negotiating meaning entails creative use of the language, grammatical norm deviations, as I said, for example, irregular plurals, L1 transfer and inference. It also includes accommodation, which is modifying your language. For example, when teachers downgrade their English to talk to students, paraphrasing when you give synonyms or when you explain what you mean. Finally, challenging our own prejudices. As we are the role models in the class, it's important that we review our assumptions regarding what ideal models of language we have, what we consider mistakes, and what correct English means. So before we move on, I need to tell you, I need to debunk some ELF myths. Firstly, ELF is a variety of English. No, it isn't. It's nothing like British or American or Australian English. In ELF, it's important to say it's not a thing, it's a way. ELF is teachable. So now we're all going to leave the webinar and go back to whatever you're doing. No, please don't do that. ELF is not teachable because it's not a thing. However, we can enrich our lessons through ELF approaches in the classroom. ELF is going to replace ESL and EFL. No, this won't happen. In fact, it should be the opposite. We can and should enrich our lessons, our EFL lessons, with ELF activities. And finally, I heard this many times, everything is acceptable in English as a lingua franca. So English as a lingua franca started as research. Jennifer Jenkins and other scholars started observing the behavior of people in real world communications in English. So when they did that, they noticed that it followed some very particular rules that don't necessarily follow native rules. Okay, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't correct things in the classroom, for God's sake, no. Students pay us to correct, to give feedback in their accuracy, but we should be careful, because not every mistake hinders communication, okay? And that's something we bear in mind when we're talking about ELF. All right, so let's get to the fun part. This is an introduction I use with my students before getting to a book page I'm going to show in a moment. I like to ask them this question: who the native speaker of English is? Can you please write in the chat box your answers? Okay. Oh, great. Can't tell by the picture. Yes, exactly. Okay, okay. Great, thank you very much. Right, so, okay. This person here, number 2, is Marvin Steinberg. He's a German businessman and millionaire. And this first person here is, I hope I say his name right, is Choi Min-sik. He's a Korean actor. And if you have watched Lucy, you will probably remember him as the bad guy. Why do I ask students this question? Some people said it is biased. Of course it is, but some research has shown, and I could prove, I could run some tests with my students, and they usually say the Caucasian men. So what this research has shown is that there is a tendency to associate the native speaker of English to a Caucasian look. So you see how relevant it is to challenge students in their perception. Right. Then this is a book page from Navigate A1 by Oxford. As you can see, A2, sorry, A2. As you can see, this is a topic that is in most course books, making suggestions and arrangements. So this goes to show that you don't have to get rid of your textbooks when you're teaching online, or when you're teaching, when you want to incorporate English as a lingua franca into your class. I like to use that activity before I get to this one. And then after I do the audio here, as you can see, this is a situation where a German businessman is visiting Korea on business. So after I check my students' understanding of the audio, what I do is I ask them these sort of questions. Why do they communicate in English? What do you think of their English? And why is their English British or American? I have to say, these, okay, it's Navigate A2. Okay, so this sort of metacognitive questions will start making them reflect in what they think. Oh, no problem, Roberta. What they think about the language. Right, for the next exercise, I ask my students this question. How do you usually refuse invitations? They can answer in Portuguese or in English. And for the next part, you can, of course, use the textbook page as it is here, but you can also do something else using more dynamic technology called Jamboard. Let me share with you something you can do. Okay, so just a sec. And this is what usually happens in the class, by the way. You have to ask them to wait. Okay, so this is Google's Jamboard. I hope you all can see. You can ask your students to do that in pairs or in groups. So they're going to separate the sentences here. For example, sentences to invite each other. Do you want to? Sentences to accept. Yes, that sounds nice. To refuse, I'm sorry, but they can do that in pairs or in groups. You can also share your screen with your students, so they can do that. To wake them up, because sometimes they're just following the course book and not really paying attention. And this sort of activity can be engaging. And it's really, really simple to do it, to prepare before the class. Okay, back to our presentation. Right, then you can ask students these questions. For example, can we transfer the way we accept to refuse invitations in Portuguese to English? Because then they can start understanding how L1 can be transferable to L2 or not. And what do you do if people don't understand you? This kind of metalinguistic question is important to make them aware of the strategies they can adopt when there is a communication breakdown. I also have a suggestion on how to perform this task here, activity 3. So you can break your students into rooms on Zoom, that's possible. And you can ask them to do that speaking, as it is a speaking activity. You can also change a students you can place a students from at different rooms as you wish, to make them repeat many times. Or you can ask them to turn off their cameras and text each other through the chat box, as if they would in a WhatsApp conversation. You are able to see what they're doing, but they won't be able to rely on their body language. So that's interesting. Another activity we can do, this is with authentic material. So because of coronavirus, of course, this is a topic I'm discussing in class a lot. You can do that by sharing your screen. Okay. Not necessarily. You can just prepare a Word file, for example, and share with your students or not. That depends on the task you would like to do. Okay. You can also, as I said, use your course book, and you can just adapt to some activities. I hope I have answered your question, Karim. So you can prepare this, as I said, in a Word file. Or you can do that in another way that I'm going to show you now, which I think is a bit more engaging. Before we get there, these are the questions I ask my students after the video. So the previous course book was Navigate A2. We're going to make this available, the name, okay. Great. I ask my students these questions after the video because they are not comprehensive questions. I'm not asking if they understood the video or not. Oh, sorry. These are the questions I tested them, okay, to check if they understood. But these are the questions, the metacognitive questions that trigger their self-awareness. Okay, so I would like to show you a video now. Just a moment. That's something else you can do. Okay, this is ED-Puzzle. I don't know how many of you already use it, but it's also fairly user-friendly, so you can edit videos quite easily here. This is what it looks like if it's the first time you're entering. So I'm just going to type my nickname here. That's it. And okay. This is what it looks like.
Hi people, how are you? Hola gente, ¿cómo estáis? I'm well, thank you very much. Yo estoy muy bien, muchas gracias. Okay, this is a little video of news. As you know, here in Europe and in Spain, we're with the coronavirus, you know, and COVID-19, I think it's called. And in this moment, in Spain, we have a national alarm and we have a lockdown. Everybody has to stay home. Nobody can go out to the street, only for, you know, things like food, the pharmacy, the doctors, if you have to go to work, you know, or else you have to stay home. You can't go out, you can't do any sports, you can't go to the bars because they're all closed, the restaurants are all closed, only the food shop are open and all that. We have to stay home and we have a big lockdown and we can't move. As you know, I work with the Red Cross and I am in the state of, you know, if I'm in my house, I'm home, but they can call me anytime, and if they need my help, I have to go. If I receive a message or I get a phone call, I have to put my uniform on and get the ambulance and go to work.
So that's what I like the most about this website, because it breaks the video. Students can't go further, they have to answer. If you remember, this is one of the questions I put there on the slide. Nowadays, lots of health professionals are on call. Does he know this word? If you remember, he doesn't. Okay, and then you can submit and continue. Going back to our presentation, just a sec. Okay, so, as I said, exposing our learners to competent speakers of the language, it's important because sometimes L2 seems like the holy grail. They're never going to get there. They're never going to be as good as the teacher or many times as people on films, and they should know this is not even necessary. So I'd like to ask you this. What is his English level? I'd like to hear from you. Okay. Wow, pre-intermediate. Okay. B1. Okay. Oh, great. We have very different answers. Okay, but yes, sure. I can, of course. Okay. Yeah, no, all right. This is a small sample because I want my students to reflect on that. And this will be amusing, but most of them said his level is low. So why would they say that? Because of his accent. You see, students relate the accent to low level of proficiency. Yes, exactly. He can communicate. Yes, yes, exactly. So precisely, you can ask your students if he made mistakes. This is a fairly interesting question. So these are all metacognitive, metalinguistic questions here. Okay. For example, when I asked my students, does he know the word on call? If you notice, he explained what he meant because he probably didn't know or didn't remember the word, but he could convey the meaning that he was trying to explain. How did he do that? Through paraphrasing. Okay, and if we teach our students how to do that, they won't feel like failures when they don't know a word. It happens all the time. My students say, oh, my English is horrible because I don't know words. But sometimes we lack words. That's normal. You see? Okay, yeah, I also get words in Portuguese as well, exactly. And Roberto made a comment here, accent is who we are, precisely. If we make our students aware of that, this will be really, really beneficial because they will start embracing their accent, their nationality, you see? And lastly, is the speaker easy or difficult to understand? Most of my students said he is easy, easier than Americans, for example. And there is some research which shows non-native speakers of the language are much more intelligible than natives, okay? And that's some sort of surprise. All right, moving on. Another example of activity you can do to integrate ELF in online class is based on Marek Kiszkowiak and Robert Lowe's book, Teaching English as a Lingua Franca. The link for this book will be made available as well. You can start by asking students what phrases can we use when we don't understand something in English. Again, meta-linguistic question. You can give them these cards and one student will read the first card. For example, before the epidemics, there was an outbreak of the virus in China. If you're working with me, you're my partner, you're going to use negotiated meaning questions, strategies, for example, clarification, paraphrasing. You're going to use your knowledge of your L1 repertoire, for example, in the word of symptomatic. Oh, that seems very similar to Portuguese. I think I know what it is. So they're going to use all these strategies to understand what the word means, what the word in the card means. You can use this activity in a break room. You can use it after a lesson on coronavirus or before as a warm-up to see how much vocabulary they already know. So that is a really small activity you can do, and you are already incorporating ELF in your classroom. Finally, my last activity, as I'm a business English mentor, I work with business people, and this is something I have been doing a lot lately. Yeah, sure. Metacognitive questions are questions that make you question why you have such assumptions. Ah, good, you chose Zoom, great. Zoom is great. Okay, back to somebody's question that I don't know who. Metacognitive questions, you ask yourself, why do I think that? So when you rate your English as 4, even though you are one learner, why do you say that? So these are the kind of metacognitive questions. Back to our activity, I like to give this as a role play. So as I said in the beginning, one of the perks of teaching online is that you can actually give your students this feeling of real intelligence. I like to give them an activity such as this. You're the CEO of a multinational, have a meeting your team to find out what strategic actions will be necessary at this moment. Your goal is to elaborate a 5-point action plan. And then I give them the cards. Of course, they are a bit more elaborate than that. This is just a summary. And I give them, of course, individual messages. And when they go to the room, this is a conference call, a real conference call. And you just turn off your video. You don't interfere. It's also great for task-based learning. You can approach this asking them to rely on their paralinguistic features. You can ask them to use the body language, gestures, and etc. to make sure they get the message across. Or you can ask them to turn off the videos and make it a bit more difficult. Okay, so this is really interesting to do as well. Okay, to wrap up, I would like you to remember, ELF is not a thing, it's a way. ELF is easy to integrate into the classroom. ELF can help to communicate better and more tolerant of other Englishes if you expose them to different accents, not only American accent, not only British accent, but a myriad of different accents. They're going to become more and more tolerant and will also develop their listening skills, because we can't predict what kind of people our learners will have contact with. And finally, ELF in the online class is not only possible, but highly achievable through small tweaks in our lessons. Okay, that's it. If you have questions, I'm ready. You can use the Q&A button to type any questions you have.
Hello, Hellen. Thank you very much. That was great. If you want, I can read the questions for you. You can. I think you can turn your video on.
Okay. It's okay. Just oh gosh. Okay. I think you have to do it.
Oh, do I? No. I just asked you to start the video.
Okay. Just.
Yeah.
Is it working?
Now we can see you. It was funny.
Okay.
The last 30 minutes, your connection was perfect.
I can't explain that. I don't know why. I can't explain. Yeah.
Go figure. Well, yeah. What ELF core syllabus should we have in mind?
Course or core?
Core syllabus. The core syllabus. Core.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Oh, my mug. Okay, great. All right. It's not a mug. It's a bucket, actually. Okay. Yes. Right. Yeah. Sure. I can share an LP. Right. Core syllabus. Actually, as I said, you don't have to change the way you teach to incorporate ELF. So you don't have to change your syllabus. You can just change some activities. If you tweak them, you can make them more ELF oriented. Okay, you don't have to change everything you are doing.
Mm-hmm. There is another question here. Could you give more suggestions of theoretical materials, please?
Oh gosh, how much time do I have? I can talk about oh gosh, no, there are so many things. Okay, if you'd like to start understanding ELF, of course I suggest reading Jennifer Jenkins, English as a Lingua Franca. She's the mother of English as a Lingua Franca. Mother, okay, you can get that, or Barbara Zeithofer, as I mentioned. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to control that. There are questions popping up and we get lost. Right. So Jennifer Jenkins is a great place to start. There are lots of her articles free online, and you can understand more about ELF. One thing though is that ELF is actually on the third phase of research now. So a lot of the things that she said in the beginning have changed a bit. And it's fairly interesting for us to see that this evolution. Sorry, oh my gosh.
Don't worry,
Okay.
I'll read the questions for you when you finish.
Okay, great.
So
Yes.
there's a question by Silvania here. Would you recommend another book about ELF?
Oh, wow. There is a great book called, actually there is a Jennifer Jenkins book teaching the phonology of English as international language, which is great. And there is, I think it's Robin Walker. Stop sharing. Okay, great. Oh gosh. Okay. He talks about English as a lingua franca as well, and from the pronunciation perspective, and it's also great. I can actually make all these links available after.
Oh, that would be great.
Yes, Barbara Zaudhofer. Okay. Yeah, Merrick's book, actually, I have it here somewhere because, oh my goodness. So, yeah, this is the book by Merrick. It's a very good book with lots of practical activities to incorporate ELF into the classroom. I just don't fancy this title much. Teaching gives the impression that it's something teachable, and in fact it isn't. But it's a very good book if you would like to see more practical exercises.
There is a very interesting question here by Motorola One Action. When you're using authentic material, don't you find it hard to find material that are adequate to the student's level? What do you do to adapt your material and still use authentic material?
Well, it's actually the same as you would in any classroom, despite following an approach or not. It's the same thing that you would be careful with. I always find videos on YouTube. Sometimes I can get examples. Oh God, okay, it's popping. All right, from TED Talks, for example, you can with sketches, just some small pieces of video, and that's it.
Okay. There is another question here by Vera. I think this question is very interesting, Vera. Thank you very much. As you said, it's not like anything goes. So where do you draw the line in pronunciation, for example?
Yes, excellent. Okay. So, for example, I like to use this example with my students. If they say things like advertisement, neither, it doesn't really matter whatever they say. However, when they say things like vegetable, people are bound to not understand them, and that is where I draw the line, because we have to always think about what is intelligible and what is not. I hope I have answered your question.
Okay, so next question here is Roberta Marques de Mello said, Barbara who?
Barbara Zaudhofer. Yes.
Can you type it in the comments below?
Yes, sure. Yes. Okay. And actually, I also. Okay, here. Zaudhofer. Hope you all can see. I'm not screaming, I promise you. It's just caps is on.
All right.
All right.
Okay, any more questions? Where did you learn English, Helen? A question by Carol.
I'm a self-taught learner, actually.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yes. I always studied English by myself, and then I worked abroad and a couple times as I improved my English, and then I took my CPE in England, and that was it. I've never stopped studying. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. That I have to confess that all this technological glitch made me really nervous. Goodness. Okay. There's anything else I can help you with? I'm going to make these slides available, of course. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So I think that's all we have time for. So
Great.
Helen, it was amazing. Despite the technical glitches, I think it was an absolutely fantastic presentation. I learned. I can speak for myself here. I learned a lot from this presentation. So thank you very much, and thank you all who has been with us this whole week, an entire week. 12 presenters, 12 English teachers sharing what they know about online teaching. And BRAZ-TESOL decided to do that, especially because this is a moment when you should stick together and you should work together. And as the saying goes, sharing is caring, and you can always count on BRAZ-TESOL. So thank you very much. We had more than 1,000 people registering, enrolling for this beautiful event that has approached its end. So thank you very much and hope to see you around. Stay home, stay safe. Cheers, take care.